solid team does.
Hey, Kevin.
Mike's on his way in.
Oh, yeah?
Yes.
Okay.
Can we delay?
Yeah. How long? It is.
Well, I haven't seen him get through
He's
the.
right here.
Okay. Yeah. Ready. Good now?
Yep.
All right. Welcome, everyone, tonight to the meeting of the Sturgis City Council on October 21st. I'll call the meeting to order. We're a few minutes late, but we wanted to make sure that we got all of our councilors in and here. I would like to look at approving the agenda. We do have two items that need to be removed. Item 7.1 in payroll and item 10.5 in reports need to be removed.
Kevin, what was the second one?
10.5.
Okay, thank you.
I would motion to approve removing 7.1 and 10.5, and with the addition of two items under,
Yep, there was a mistake. 10.5 needs to stay on. It is.
I think it's in the consent.
Oh, it's in the consent.
8.4 is the one that needs to be removed, not 10.5.
Okay, we've got an adjustment. Dave's corrected the item to be removed is still in payroll 7.1 and item 8.4 from the consent calendar. 10.5 remains.
I would motion to approve the agenda with removal of 7.1 and 8.4 and the addition of two items under reports, one of them being acknowledging the resignation of Ward 3 Councilor Don Lanfer effective October 18th and discussing and determining the process by which the vacancy will be filled. And then the second item would be acknowledging the resignation of Mayor Angela Wilkerson effective today, October 21st, 2024, as well as discussing and determining the process by which the vacancy will be filled.
All right, we've got a first to approve the agenda with the omission of 7.1 and 8.4 and adding agenda items to accept resignations from Don Lanphier and Angela Wilkerson.
Second.
We've got a first and second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor of approving this motion indicate by saying yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. All right, we are unanimous on approving the agenda. I'd like to make a note that I'm going to place that the two acknowledgments of resignations first under reports, so we'll put it at 10.1. All right, moving on, we're going to recite the pledge. Please stand and. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, well, announcements and praise. First, I'd like to thank so many members of our community for coming tonight. And I'd like to start off, Councilor Thompson has requested that he provide a prayer tonight, so.
Okay. Lord, thank you for this meeting tonight. Thank you for this great city that we represent. Father, I pray for those of us who have been chosen to be servants of the residents for this city, that will take that with great responsibility, wisdom, and patience. And Lord, we pray that you'll give us servants' hearts in all that we do. Let us trust you, Lord, that you can show us solutions. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you, Jim. I don't have a extensive list of announcements, but we are having what essentially is the last meeting in October, so we have lots of Halloween-related items, and you know, hopefully our kids are able to make their trips through the assisted living and nursing homes and all the other Halloween-related items to make sure that everyone gets a chance to see the great costumes that we have.
Kevin, I'll throw out a couple.
Okay.
So we know Sunday night is the Hobo Stew event, the Kiwanis event at the community center. And then Monday night is the chili and soup cook-off for the Alliance of Churches. And then on Friday, Veronica, you can tell us, the Chambers Crypt.
Yeah, it's a haunted house, 6 to 8 Friday and Saturday, and then Wednesday, Thursday.
It's a haunted house, 6 to 8, and you start at the Armory. Yep. Okay.
Outstanding. Is there any other announcements or praise? All right, yard waste pickup at the out at the recycle centers, close seasonally. Closing the 30th. Thank you. Anything else, Bonnie?
I just want to say that Rick's guys, the Public Works guys, have done a really fine job of trimming the overhang where our private trees hang out over the public street. And the height is hard to reach, and helped with mine. And I've noticed around my neighborhood, the neighborhoods between my two neighborhoods, that they've done a lot of work and they've done it well and nicely and congenially. And Rick, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've got a good team. Thank you, Bonnie. Anything else? All right, moving on. We'll go to item 5, non-agenda matters that may become before council. If anyone wishes to make a comment, please come up to the dais, state your name. Keep it, again, to items that are not on the agenda. And since we have quite a few people that may want to make a comment, let's make sure that we keep comments tight. Dave?
Mr. President, could we please have him speaking to the mic directly?
Me?
No, everybody.
Okay.
Can you hear me? Mm-hmm. Wonderful, thank you. I wanted to get up here early. Us old folks, we have a kind of a curfew,
Tell us who you are.
so I don't want to stay out too late. Anyway, I
Say
had
Dave.
two quick things I wanted to bring up.
Who you are.
What?
Who are you? Tell us.
David Herzrud
Thank you. Thank you.
of the Herzrud family, yes. It has come to my attention that one of the things that's being discussed with regard to the budget is the elimination of Deb Holland's job. And I find that very, 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 very distressing.
Or offensive.
Well, I'm not going to say offensive.
I will.
Okay, you can, I find it distressing. Anyway, one of the things, and one of the reasons why I bring this up, we're in a situation right now where the city needs as much communication with the citizens as is humanly possible. The more you can have, the better. But the one thing, and I think Jim will attest to this, in many cases, it isn't what you say, it's how you say it. You can give somebody some bad news and crouch it in such a way that they aren't going to go jump off a building. And right now, trying to get somebody to fill that position or handle it who hasn't had experience, and I've been in that situation before, it takes you a while. There is no manual. You learn as you go. And we're in a situation right now in a city where we can't afford to make mistakes. We need to have that information out there. And I would also say, if you've got somebody on staff who has the time to do that, then fire them and keep Deb. You need her. You need to get that information out to people, and you need to get it out to them in such a way that they can understand it and at least feel that the city is moving ahead. Second thing I wanted to bring up, it's anybody who doesn't know that the city's got financial problems right now has probably been living in a cave somewhere. I find that distressing. I mean, what gets me even more distressed is finding out that we haven't been following a lot of the financial protocols that we should have been following for quite a while. I mean, how can you sit there and plan a budget when you don't know how much money you have in the bank, how much you've spent, or where it's coming from? Now, we're probably going to get through this situation. What I'm concerned about is where we are going to be going forward. I don't think the people in this community deserve to take a look at this as a one-time special edition. Let's get it over with and move on to the next thing. We need to put rules, we need to put plans in place going forward so that we don't have this again. I haven't seen a whole lot that tells me how we got here. You know, I can go down to McDonald's and sit with a bunch of guys having coffee, and I can get 52 different reasons on why the city's in trouble financially. And probably none of it's correct. The people in this community don't know. All I know is we got to spend $10,000 to $15,000 to have an outside auditor come in and fix what should have been done to begin with. But my main concern is going forward is that we have a plan in place, plans in place, on what we're going to do going forward. We've lost an awful lot of good city employees. And one thing that's very important, if you're an employee in a business, and the city is a business, is your people have to have confidence that the leadership is going in the right direction. You want to lose any more good people because they don't think the city's going in the right direction or don't know what's going on. Is that my cue?
No, oh, sorry.
I thought that was my notification I needed to leave. Anyway, I sincerely hope that we get the situation taken care of right now with the budget. Being this late in the year, getting it done is a travesty. But not having something going forward to make sure that we aren't facing it again this time next year, or the year after, or the year after that, or the year after that, is just as important. The citizens have a right to have that. The employees of this city deserve to have that. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave.
Good evening. My name is Eric Davis. I'm a citizen of Sturgis. I agree with almost everything Mr. Hersrud said, and I think the first step that this community needs to embark on is finally electing a mayor. I think the citizens of this community deserve an incredible amount of credit for gathering the signatures necessary to call a mayoral election in such a short time. All of you know from circulating nominating petitions that petition circulation, seeking out a petition, it's hard work. It's thankless work. It takes an incredible amount of time and effort to gather 800 signatures of registered voters in this community. But it's also about citizenship and community and democracy in action, and I think we really saw that over the last few weeks in Sturgis. And I don't think that the effort to bring about a mayoral election was about warring factions or past grievances or personality conflicts or personal politics. It was simply about finally allowing the citizens of this community to elect a mayor who they believe will best serve Sturgis and best serve its residents. And we will finally have that election. Sturgis has had a rough few years as a resident. It does not make me proud to see Sturgis continually making the news for all the wrong reasons when this is an incredible community. And from what I've witnessed in the last couple weeks, I truly think today marks a new chapter in this community where the citizens are going to take that first step of electing a leader who they believe will represent their interests. I think this community is awake and engaged, and I have faith in what's coming and that what this body will do in the future. And to all of you on the dais, I think now more than ever is the time to put aside the past, replace it with a new spirit of vision and leadership and cooperation. You have a lot of hard work ahead of you. I can only speak for myself, but from what I've seen in the last few weeks, you have me, and I think you have many others in this community that are reawakened, excited for what Sturgis can become, what it is. And I would just ask you, as you consider this, what to do with these vacancies, to please set a mayoral election at the earliest possible date allowed by law. That is what this community needs. That is the first step necessary, in my opinion. Please do not consider appointing someone. Please have an election as soon as humanly possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Is there anyone else from the audience tonight that wishes to make a statement?
Susan Anders. I'm a resident of Sturgis. And I know that we have so many important things ahead of us as the city, but I want to remind you we also have important South Dakota issues that are coming up for a vote on November 5th. We only have 15 days. I urge you to vote early. Don't be caught with a life situation that prevents you from going to the polls to vote. You will need your ID, your driver's license. But I urge you to look into each of I believe there are 7 things on the ballot that are so important to us. And if anyone would like to know more information about Amendment G, I won't go into it, but if you would like to talk to me about that after, I would be happy to do that. But please make your voice heard and vote.
Thank you, Susan. I think actually today was the last day to register to vote for anybody that hasn't registered yet, but lots of items on the ballot this cycle. Are there any other members of the public that wish to address the council? Is there anything that council wants to bring up?
Bonnie.
Oh, excuse me, Bonnie, I didn't see your hand there.
Because it was late and quick. Bonnie Albert, Sturgis. I just want to be quick and simple and stand with Dave Hersrud on the issue of supporting Deb Holland and the position and the job she's done for us since she stepped into that position. I think a lot of the ill will and questions about transparency have come over a couple of years' time where we haven't communicated clearly and well. And Deb has served this Northern Hills community, not just Sturgis, but the entire Northern Hills, honestly, objectively, and accurately for a very long time. And she has continued to do so, representing us. And I know as I have struggled to connect with information about the city, to find it where it's posted, and issues of things not being very intuitive or or just out of my sight anyway, Deb has been quick to respond to all of those and to circle back and point out to me, did you look, Bonnie? I fixed it. This is where it is. I just have to wholeheartedly support the continuation of Deb's position and Deb in that position. And I have to ask for anything we can do to hold on to that. And this is not a plea of a close friend. Deb and I are have a pretty casual connection. We run into each other here and there, but there's nothing personal about this. I recognize professionalism. I recognize skill and talent and ability, and that's what should be considered when it comes to the issues of our communication with the public. And to, as was suggested, that we throw that out to department heads, that's asking people to do something that is not necessarily in their skill set. We have someone with the talent, with the ability, and who has been serving us well. We need to hang on to that as best we can. Thank you.
Thank you, Bonnie. Anyone else? All right, any members of council that have a comment on a non-agenda item? Mike?
I do. Sorry. I'd like to thank the parties who picked my butt up off the pavement out there. I don't know who they were, but thank you. They were gone as fast as they showed up. Anyway, I need to bring a few things to council's attention for this evening. The first being yeah, and these are for you. Oh, just a minute then. Here. I'd like to read the first one into the record so the people at home can see it or hear it. I have a list here. I've compiled the list going back nearly as long as I've been here. The city personnel that have resigned or retired. Daniel Ainsley, city manager. Mark Carstensen, mayor. Christina Steele, rally and events. Faye Bono, she retired, city finance. Lisa Kasmerzan, administrative services. The deputy tech support person. Eric Miller, staff attorney. Adam Hosh, finance officer. Michelle Keaton, Raleigh clerical. Jenny Williams, financial clerk. Preston William, counselor. Don Lamper, he is a replacement for Ward 3. Preston Williams, he resigned just very recently. Our sitting mayor, Angela Wilkerson, resigned. Mr. Marshall will resign effective November 1st, if memory serves me correct, and I'm resigning this evening. I don't know who did that, but I don't think it's called for. I've served this community quite well and for quite a long period. And I find that very distasteful. Anyway, there's a letter of my resignation. Do you want it read into the record, Ann, or you just put it in? You want it read in?
It's fine.
Okay. Anyway, with that being said, I wish you all well. We'll see what the new council does. I'll be back sitting out there as soon as we start coming up with the school property. And I'll be here with a vengeance. Anyway, that being said, I thank you. If I can have our full-time employees walk me out to my ride, it'll be grand. Let's see, I'll leave these. Actually, I think these kind of go through to the council, yeah. Well, if there is enough, I don't know how many I've got left.
All right, well, thank you for your service, Mike.
I feel like it's been done in vain.
Sometimes public service doesn't always have gratification with it. Okay, any other counselors have anything they'd like to bring forward? I guess we can go ahead and acknowledge that. I mean, it was made during our public meeting here. Continuing on to item 6, tabled items. 6.1 is consideration to approve minutes from the September 30th special city council meeting. It was tabled on October 7th, and I'd like to open the floor for a motion or discussion on that. For hearing no discussion being brought forward, the item was discussed at the October 7th meeting was the vote that took place that Mayor Wilkerson broke the tie on a contractual item, expenditure of money. The way that it was left, if I'm recalling correctly, was legal was actually going to reach out and make find out from the Attorney General's office what they could provide for us on that. Do you have anything to add, Mr. Marshall?
I sent an email message to...
Could you use your mic, please?
I sent an email message to Attorney General Jack Lee on October 16th requesting an opinion. He responded telling me that he had referred it to his staff who prepare opinions. I have received nothing from them since that date.
Well, we have a couple of options. The council does. They could move to approve the minutes as they were presented. They could amend the minutes, or we could table this item to a later date again.
I say we table it for a later date. Get the information we need from Pierre.
Is that a motion?
That would be a motion, yes. Sorry about that.
Second.
So it would be tabled till our next regular meeting. Are you putting a date on that?
When is our next? The 4th of November 4th.
Okay, so we had a first to table until November 4th and a second by Jim. Is there any additional discussion?
My question would be, are we tabling it because we haven't gotten an Attorney General's opinion?
That's why I'm suggesting yes.
But we had made the decision that that was out of order at that time. So we could also, although I seconded Tony's, I mean, that was for the discussion possibility, we could also approve those minutes amended to the fact that we didn't allow that, or we changed the results.
that would be, you know, if that motion was made that way, that would be a failed, you know, a failed motion at that point, or,
And again, not because we need one more thing to table, but that could be put to rest. Because I don't think there was question from us, from the council. I think we agreed that that was probably wrong and that we should probably move forward. So I think that accepting it as an amended minutes would probably be effective. I don't know how to say that, but
I guess you would make a motion to, amended motion to amend the minutes.
easy for you to say. Well, that would be my intention, not for any reason other than are we really waiting for an opinion, or do we believe that what we did was correct and we need to move forward? I think that would, and it establishes whomever will sit in that mayor's chair as to what position, they take, position they take on those kinds of things.
Jim, I think I misspoke. I think it would be a substitute motion, not an amended motion. You're not changing
Yes.
Tony's. It would be a substitute if that was a motion that you were going to make.
I would like to make that substitute motion.
And could you state that possibly?
Yeah, I'm sure I could. That we're going to accept the amendment to that October 7th. Let me see how we, because it involves two meetings. What do you think, Jess? What do we got?
I think what you're trying to say is you want to make a motion to accept the
Substitute
minutes.
motion.
A substitute motion to accept the minutes amended to show that that was a failed vote.
I should keep you around. Thank you. Thanks.
Is that clear to you, Ann? All right, there's a first for a substitute motion to accept the minutes but amend the contractual vote for, help me with the name, Profman, to a failed vote.
I'll second the substitute motion.
Is there any additional discussion on the substitute motion?
May I ask, have you had response from Prothman? Because you have let them know that that vote was a failed vote. Did they respond?
I have had no contact with,
May I, Mr. Forrester?
mm-hmm.
Mayor Wilkerson's direction, I advised Hoffman that there was controversy concerning the vote to approve the contract, and they have not moved forward.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any additional discussion? Okay, we'll call the question, and I guess because we'll roll call this.
The substitute motion?
This is for the substitute motion first. Is everyone clear on the substitute motion? All right. Starting with Tony, those in favor say yes, and opposed nay.
No.
Jesse?
Yes.
Ruth?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Nick?
Yes.
All right, that motion, the substitute motion carried 4. And now going to the original motion that Tony made that was to table until the November 4th meeting. All those in favor, well, I guess, is there any discussion on that motion?
I guess, like I said, the only reason I'd like to table it is let's get from Pierre what is I think it's due diligence to the citizens that they know for sure we covered all our bases on that, you know. That's the only reason I put the motion in that I did, so.
Yeah. Thank you for stating that, Tony. I think we'll just do a mass vote on this one. All those in favor of the original motion to table until November 4th indicate by saying yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no.
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 Looks like it was the same 4-1 in the no side this time, so that motion failed. Second tabled item is consideration to approve maintenance and financial agreement with the State of South Dakota DOT Office of Air, Rail, and Transit. That was tabled on October 7th. Do we have any more information to provide on that?
Good evening, Council. I put together some numbers for you because there was some question on whether or not my budget had the money in it under the maintenance budget. Just to give you an update on the airport budget, we're going into the last quarter of the year. We've only used 58.67% of the total budget that was allocated for the airport. Giving you some numbers, and I went through them for you. Total income for the airport this year for 2024 was $94,341.32. Less the fuel purchase, because we get paid for that. We spent $115,000 buying fuel, but we get paid for that when we sell the fuel plus a profit. When it's all said and done, we ended up with $68,119 is all we've really spent, leaving us with a positive of $26,000. So as I stated on the last meeting, this pavement maintenance project that the state did at our airport is not one of those things we can say yay or nay to. It was one of those things that had to be done, and they said, you're going to do this project. And for a $135,000 project, for $6,600, we got a heck of a deal. So, and we have to pay the bill because the project's already done.
Thank you, Dave. I guess that's some good information. Thank you for sharing that. 58% of the budget burnt so far at the end of the third quarter, and that we made about $16,000 selling fuel so far this year, and spent, I think you said on fuel, what was that number again?
We purchased $115,791.63 in fuel. We are sitting on approximately right now about $43,000 worth of inventory that we're selling every day. We sold approximately 400 gallons of jet fuel today and about 200 gallons of avgas. It was a beautiful day and things were in and out. So every day we sell fuel, we're gaining that profit back as well as our investment in that fuel.
Thank you. So in your mind as the manager of the airport, your budget can absorb this?
Oh, yes, and we're going to finish unless we end up with an Atlas-type storm over the next 3 months or 2.5 months. Yeah, we're going to finish under the allotted budget. I guarantee that, unless we have a big storm where we end up having to plow a lot of snow. So.
All right. Any further discussion from council? Is there a motion on this tabled item?
I'd motion to approve. It's free money for the citizens, so.
I'll second.
First by Tony and second by Jesse to approve this tabled item from October 7th to pay the financial agreement with the State of South Dakota DOT Office of Air, Rail, and Transport. Is there any other discussion? All those in favor of this motion indicate by saying yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. All right, we were unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dave.
Off to the mayor's report. I guess there's only 2 items that we're covering on that. We've got 2 payroll adjustments. We've got a new lifeguard at the community center. That's good. Those sometimes are hard to fill, I think, for us. And we've got some people that are helping out on our youth sports for being a referee. Continuing on to the consent calendar and noting that 8.4 has been removed from the consent calendar. Is there any item on the consent calendar that anyone from council or the public wishes to have removed and be acted on separately? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the consent calendar, again, minus 8.4 that was removed from the agenda originally?
I'd make that motion.
Second?
All right, a first to approve the consent calendar by Nick, second by Jim. All those in favor of approving the consent calendar indicate by saying yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. All right, item 9 is approval of the claims. We've got a fairly extensive list of claims going this month, or this meeting. Is there anybody that has any questions or needs more information on any of the items on the claims? From the public? From council? Outstanding, good job. Is there a motion to approve the claims?
I'll move to approve the claims.
I'll second it.
All right, first by Jim, second by Tony. Those, well, I guess we're spending money. Let's go ahead and roll call that. Let's start with Nick. Nick?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes?
Ruth?
Yes.
Jesse?
Yes.
Tony?
Yes.
Almost forgot your name there for a second. Good work. All right, we are unanimous on approving the claims. That brings us to reports. And first on the reports, we're actually going to discuss and acknowledge the resignation of Don Lanfear.
Okay, so our Title VII ordinance does address filling vacancies on the Common Council or in the office of mayor. So this first section, it talks about if a vacancy exists on the Common Council, the remaining members may appoint a replacement to serve until the next annual municipal election or by special election called for the purpose provided in South Dakota law. And if it is a council member, the appointee must be a person from the same ward of the municipality. When electing a person to fill the remainder of the unexpired term at an annual municipal election, the vacancy must have occurred prior to the publication required for that upcoming election.
Okay, I guess to back up just a little bit, on Friday the 18th, Don submitted an email indicating he was resigning from council effective immediately. I'd like to, before we discuss too much on that, we have the second resignation that we were going to talk about, 10.2, and that was the resignation of Angela Wilkerson, the mayor. And I think I guess does council agree that we're going to be discussing how we're going to act or react on those as one rather than two separate items?
Do we want to discuss Mike's position too?
We're able to, I guess. I mean, that would be an additional. Mark, can you advise us on, can we throw Mike into this? We approved the agenda before he resigned.
I think, if I may, Mr. Forrester, that to elevate form over substance, it would be good to amend your agenda to include it as an item, and if so amended, that you may go ahead and do so.
Thank you. Is there anyone on council that'd be willing to make a motion to amend the agenda to add Mike, the resignation of Mike Bichon to the reports section?
I would amend the motion from before everything is written, but adding Mike as well to that.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All right, we've got a first and second. All those in favor of that motion indicate by saying yes.
Yes.
Those opposed? All right, so we've all heard Councilor Bichon's resignation. So we've got 3 vacancies. Deb Holland read our ordinance. that gives the council,
Yeah, that's just the councilman. You want me to read the mayor one now?
please.
Okay. If there is a vacancy from any cause in the office of the mayor, the vacancy may be filled by appointment by a majority vote of the aldermen as soon as practicable after the vacancy occurs, to serve until the office is filled by election for the unexpired term at the next annual municipal election or by special election called for that purpose as provided in SDCL 91314 and our ordinance. And so if you guys remember, when Mark Karstensen resigned, we were not able to have a special election because this was not in our ordinance. And so this council did pass that ordinance. It is now on our books. So it is possible to have a special election in this case. Until the vacancy is filled or during the time of temporary absence or disability of the mayor, the powers and duties of the mayor are executed by the president or vice president of the council as provided in state law. When electing a person to fill the remainder of the unexpired term at the annual municipal election, the vacancy must have occurred prior to the publication required. And that's what happened to us in the first case. And then it just goes on to talk about Ann's role in advertising that and how people can go about getting petitions to run for that office.
Okay, thank you.
And I did have some handouts. Some of you may have gotten a Title VII handout.
Well, I'll start by saying I don't think we have an option. We just need to set an election for all three positions. And to me, we don't have an option beyond that.
I would agree with that. I don't, time frame though, middle of December,
Well, I think
because you have to circulate petitions, right? I guess I don't fully understand.
I think
You have
there's
some input on timeline?
May I respond to that? State law gives timelines, and that election must be held no sooner than 30 days nor more than 50 days after the vacancies arise. For what it's worth, I talked to the election person at the Secretary of State's office, and her advice was to give the community as much time as possible to circulate petitions. That is only her advice. You are certainly free to disregard that.
Was there any information provided by the Secretary of State's office on, I mean, we've got 30 to 50 days, but how far before the election must petitions be turned in for prospective candidates?
I did not ask that question. My memory is that question's governed by state law and can be readily answered. But I don't have it off the top of my head.
Is that a lengthy research, Mr. Marshall, or can we move on and revisit this a little later in the report section? Because it would be nice to know all of the timelines on this before we bring this forward.
I can certainly go and do that if that is council's pleasure.
I think it'd be best, yes.
All right. So we're going to revisit 10.1, 10.2, 10.3, the three resignations when we get back, or when Mr. Marshall gets back with the answer. We'll continue on to 10.4.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Appointed.
Yeah, acting something.
Acting. I'm sure the other people have this question. The people that are running, are they running to fill a vacancy that will end in April?
Yes.
In all three cases?
Mm-hmm.
So that's consistent in all three cases. So whatever.
Everybody's on the same term? Yes, they are, yeah.
Okay. I think we should acknowledge that we could, in fact, although I agree with you, Jesse, that we shouldn't have an option, considering the mood of the city and the things that have existed. And the part of the reason that brought up a recall was that people were dissatisfied with that appointment. And I think that it's something that we could do, but I think people need to be aware we could do that. It is within the law to make those appointments. But it's also, it may be correct, but it ain't right. So we're going to do it. That's at least my version. I think everybody agrees.
Well, I think after the mood in the last 2 weeks and seeing what has happened, people want to hear their voice heard. And I think it's best that, yeah, I agree with Jesse that all three of these positions are at a vote and let the people make the decision on who they want in their office.
Well, with that, I'll reverse what I was thinking. Let's stick to this discussion, because I worked with Ann a little bit before the meeting, and we kind of talked. I mean, there are some notice requirements. We would have to notice the requirement for 2 consecutive weeks, and then we have to actually notice the election for 2 consecutive weeks, with this second notice being no less than 10 days before. Did I nail that? Yeah. So with that, and with some of the requirements from our legal newspaper to make that happen, it looks like, unless Mr. Marshall comes with something that throws us a curveball, we could potentially have an election on the 3rd of December for the mayor position, for Ward 1 councilman, and for Ward 3 councilman for the remainder of their terms, which would be until May of 2025. Does any members of the public have any input on this, as we're waiting for Mr. Marshall to come back and tell us when petitions would have to be submitted?
What was the date of Dawn's resignation?
Friday, October 18th. The question was, what was the date of Don Lamphere's resignation? I won't make you come to the microphone, Bonnie.
What is the latest Tuesday that's still under 50 days? Just so we know what our...
The
date.
latest
Yes,
Tuesday
just
that's
so we know
under
what
50 days?
Not go past.
Well, here we are on the 21st. That would be Tuesday the 10th, I guess. 10th of December. Again, is there any input from the public? Myself, I think that, I agree that there needs to be ample time, but the recall discussion, actually, there was a 2-page document that I reviewed off of the Secretary of State's website. I mean, it actually said that they recommended 40 days. I think was exactly right on that to meet the notice requirements. Obviously we've got until 50 days, but if something, we just heard about a potential storm atlas from our airport director. Yeah. I'm not sure what kind of a notice would have to come with that, but maybe we could still make it within 50 days if we had to, I guess. Does anybody have any other discussion or input? I don't know how long it's going to take Mark to come back. Do you want to move on?
I would say we move on until Mark comes back.
Okay.
And then,
Pardon me?
He's coming.
All right. We're good.
Okay, we're good?
Yes, go ahead.
The notice requirement is that it must be published once a week for 2 successive weeks, with the first publication not less than 10 days prior to the election.
Okay.
So it's easy to read, but one would need to sit down with their calendar and back in and out.
Mm-hmm. Is there a requirement for when petitions would actually have to be? Deb, do you have some input?
Yeah, is this right, Mark? 913-14-2, special election to fill vacancy on governing board or in the office of mayor procedures. Yeah, 913-14.2. It's near the end of that paragraph. Nominating petitions for the vacancy.
Shall be filed more than 30.
Seems like this reads that if you do the election 50 days after the resignations, then they have 20 days to get their petition signed because they have to be in 30 days before the election. Is that right thinking?
It's not my position to be disagreeable, although I am sometimes. I think the goal is to provide the 30 days within which to circulate the petitions, and that you set your election date with your notices that occur at the end of those 30 days. So you have 30 days to get your petitions in, and then your election is set to be noticed for the first time 10 days after the date your petitions are due.
So if that, we're stretching things out then pretty good if we're allowing 30 days. Let's quickly do the calendar here. So 30 days from the 21st of October would place us on the 13th of November. And then 30 days past that, and getting us to a Tuesday would be an election date of the 17th of December. Can anybody check me on that?
So 30 days from today.
30 days from today is the 13th of November, and 30 days, the 19th of, okay, so
And
1,
then
2,
you can set
3, 4.
and publish your first notice on the following day. And you would publish 10 days before,
You're,
and then again slightly before.
Rick, you're correct. It'd actually be the 20th of November would be 30 days.
So it's not 30 days and then another 30. It's 30 a week,
30 and 10 days.
30 and 10 days.
That gives you 30 days to circulate petitions, and then 10 days for your notice publication. And that is as compressed, I believe, as you can accomplish the election.
Okay, so with that, then it would be acceptable to have petitions for nominations to be submitted by the 21st of November?
Yes, I believe that is correct, Mr. Forrester.
I mean, that to be the end of the business on the 21st. an election, the earliest that it could happen would be the 3rd of December. That would be more than 10 days after that.
And that would allow 10 days for the two publications.
Right, is that clear?
Yep.
Is there any additional discussion that's needed?
I think the sooner the better.
I agree. I mean, it's nice to give time, but we don't have a lot of time to start with.
We got a lot of holidays in the middle of all of that.
So with that, is there a motion for, and this is acting on 10-1, 10-2, 10-3, that's the resignations of Don Lampier, Angela Wilkerson, and Mike Bashan.
Can you give me that second date of the 10 days after November 21st?
Well, 10 days exactly after doesn't come, it's on, if we want to have it on a Tuesday, and it does reference Tuesday in a different piece, so Tuesday, the 3rd of December.
Would be election day.
Would be election day.
I'll make a motion that we hold a special election on December 3rd for all 3 vacancies and petitions to be submitted by the 21st of November.
I'll second it.
All right, we've got a first to hold a special election on December 3rd, petitions to be returned to the finance office 21st of November. First by Ruth, second by Tony. Any additional discussion on this item?
Bonnie has a question.
Bonnie has a question. Bonnie, can you come to the microphone, please, for this? I bet you this is going to be a longer one that I can't.
When we did this in the first place, I charted out because I was kind of confused. I mean, this is time back, the legs of the journey. But in D, it says that petitions must be filed at least 30 days before the date of the special election. So how you can't have maybe I'm thinking squirrely, but if you said the petitions have to be in the 21st of November, and then the election would be the 3rd of December, that's not enough days. Pardon?
10 days after the 3rd.
Mark, can you restate that timeline, please?
This is the statute, council, that provides for the notice. And the notice is published once each week for 2 consecutive weeks, with the first publication not less than 10 days prior to the notice, prior to the election, pardon me.
So if the first resignation was
18th.
10/18, then you have to do that first notice within 10 days, right? Of the vacancy notice.
I think you are conflating the subjects. The notice of the election is not tied to when the resignations were turned in.
So if we voted on this motion to approve it, there would be 31 days from today to turn in petitions. And 11 days, am I right there?
But
12 days from the deadline for petition submittals to the actual election day.
But the second line there starts on the second line, and must be filed Okay, it's talking about the petitions for the vacancy must be prepared, not circulated more than 60 days before the election, and must be filed at least 30 days before the election. So you can't file them and then have the election 10, 12 days later.
Well, I think you're talking about a normal municipal election. Would that be an accurate reflection there? I mean, because that has a different timeline. A special election,
This is referring, then 60 days before the date of the special election, and must be filed at least 30 days before the date of the special election. I mean, I'm looking at the sheet we got.
Bonnie, are you looking at 913, 14.2?
Looking at D.
I know, but I'm seeing it there too, which is special election to fill vacancy on governing body or in the office of mayor. Or where it says nominating petitions for the vacancies shall be prepared and filed as provided in 913.7, may not be circulated more than 60 days before the date of the special election, and shall be filed at least 30 days before the date of the special election.
So there has to be 30 days between the time that the deadline for filing and the election, right?
That's what it sounds like. Yeah.
so if that was the
We
case,
need to amend.
then that puts us to Christmas Eve.
So the date of the election, and then 30 days prior to that is the file the petitions, and no more than 30 days or less from that for signing the petitions.
Can we have petitions get turned in earlier? Why did we decide on the 21st? Remind me.
Well, that's the deadline.
The deadline. Can we do it earlier?
Turn them in earlier if you,
So then 30 days won't be Christmas Eve?
well, from the deadline.
I know. I'm suggesting we shift the deadline sooner, or does that violate something else? I need a visual, like a.
Well, that's why I'm drawing little racetracks here, trying to figure out where the baton shifts.
I think if we could avoid it, it'd be good to not have it on the week of Christmas, because there's a lot of people gone, vacation. You know, if we could do it the week prior, great, but if the timeline doesn't allow that, then I think we should do it the week after.
I think I have some clarity, if I may.
Very good, thank you. Help us clarify this.
Nominating petitions must be prepared and filed and circulated more than 60 days before the date of the special election. So I think you can set your special election at 60 days from tomorrow. Publish your notices, because they may not be published more than 60 days before, and have your nominating petitions due in 30 days. So that compresses everything into the 60-day time.
And how far from the nominating petition deadline until the actual election date?
30 days.
So we're at 60 days as we're talking, and so that puts us into the Christmas timeline then.
I think we should push it to the week at the 31st, December 31st.
New Year's
New
Eve.
Year's Eve.
What about January 7th?
Then, yeah.
Yes, it has to be a Tuesday.
60?
So, but to be on a Tuesday.
We have
But
to
it
be
has
on
to
a
be a
Tuesday.
Tuesday. So,
Yeah.
I do not believe that there is a necessity that a special election take place on a Tuesday. I think
it's 9.
Tuesday reference concerns the annual election. It may not apply special leeway to establish that date.
So 9/13/31, special or annual election. It says the governing body shall within 10 days of presentation order and fix a date for holding a special election to be on a Tuesday, not less than 30, nor more than 50 days from the date of the order of the governing body.
So to be safe, let's keep it on a Tuesday, which would be January 7th.
We have two conflicting provisions. We have 913-14.2 that deals with a special election for filling a vacancy on a governing body or in the office of the mayor. And then you have 913-31, which is a special or annual election notice. At the risk of offending someone, anyone,
Not gonna
I
offend
would
me.
suggest that 913.2 is the governing statute because it specifically refers to special elections to fill a vacancy in the governing body or the mayor. And it does not include a designation of a Tuesday.
And considering the possibility of weather and considering all the holidays and the necessity for maybe not speed, but at least getting things done in the best possible time, I would think that we should ignore the Tuesdays and find a day that works.
Is there a chance somebody could challenge that and we get through this 40 days into this? And I mean, not to say that.
Well, and then, what is the April election day? I mean, are we gonna be into the 90-day window at that point? By our ordinance? Let me see
Is
if-
it 50 days from the second week's notice?
You know, January 7th, we know we're safe. You know, I agree, timeliness is of the essence, but what's another week?
I think we'd miss it by one day, would we not? Is someone else looking at a calendar in our gallery here that, so 90 days from January 7th is the 7th, well, I guess true 90 days would be.
So how long does it take to get a notice into the paper, Deb?
We would be just outside of 90 days before the regular April election. So we'd
Doing it on the 7th.
by doing it on the 7th of January. So are we clear on that? What we're working with is looking at the required 60 days to hold the election, but we were bumping up against the not being able to have an election 90 days before our normal April election.
So it has to be 91 days, is that what we're saying, before the normal?
Yeah, it looks like the 7th of January will work.
So what would be the normal date?
The normal date? April 8th, was it? So we've had a first and a second. Now we've had some clarity on that.
So the 7th is good? We're within our,
It looks to me, does our finance officer and our attorney agree with that?
I think it fits precisely within the window.
It's close, but, yeah.
do we have interest in allowing more time for petition circulation since now we're further out? Or keep
Well,
it as the
that really,
21st?
I mean, there could be another day or so in there, but we can't
Okay.
add it to any more days really to the petition
Right.
cycle
Okay.
because
I would amend my motion to set a special election for January 7th, 2025, with the petition deadline being November 21st for all 3 vacancies.
do you, the second on that was Jim, right?
Nope, it was me and I second it.
Do you approve the,
Yes.
the amendment? Okay, any additional discussion on what is now the current motion of holding a special election for the 3 openings that we have on the 7th of January with nominating petitions being returned to the finance office by the 21st of November? Any additional discussion from the council or from public? I have something to say. Yeah, please come up to the microphone, just for our streaming audience, please.
My name's Beth Bartlett. I'm Ward 3. I just don't understand why we can't move this a little sooner, faster. I think the citizens have shown that we can make things happen. And I'm kind of wondering why we want to have 2 elections so close together. You know, how much is it to run a special election and then run another election in April? That's just, I wanted to make that comment, so that's how I feel as a citizen.
Thank you, Beth. I mean, not trying to speak for other council members, but I think the direction was to try and hold an election. And that's where we came to is the earliest by meeting state law that we can hold an election is the 7th of January. Obviously, there was a different path there was a recall petition that was out. It had nothing to do with the other council resignations. That actually says that in 10 days the board has to act, and somewhere between 30 and 50 days we would have to have this recall election. But that's not the case because of the resignation.
Okay, so this is the soonest we can have it
This is
by state law.
by state law. This looks like the soonest that we can have a public election to fill these positions.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Sorry for the confusion.
Well,
It's been a hard discussion. I'm going to call on, yeah, please.
Brenda Vosnitz, Sturgis resident. And I speak for many residents who really, really appreciate the opportunity to be able to vote as we move forward. But I think we're in a crisis right now. And with the time line that you're disclosing right now, we're still going to have vacancies. And we need a full body, in my opinion, is more important as soon as possible to get everybody working together and right on the right path. I think at this situation, we need to rethink the voting part at this point, pushing it out that far. And I think we trust that there would be a fair process if you took applications for those people interested, so you could get somebody in here within a matter of a couple weeks to a month doing the, appoint somebody, but do a fair process like you have in the past, allowing people to come up and apply and put their name in the hat and give each and every one of them an opportunity to present themselves and why they want to be on the city council. I think time is of the essence, and if you keep waiting 2 more months with just the body we have right now in front of us is just going to delay more things. So I would be in favor if you would, I can't believe I'm saying this, not hold an election, as I've advocated for all of us to be able to use our voices through this community. And maybe just revisit looking at the appointment process in a fair manner that I think the citizens would agree with. Just food for
I
thought.
certainly appreciate the confidence in us to be able to appoint. But I think if we did, I mean, there's probably there's one side that's going to be okay with that, and there's always going to be the other side that's not.
Sure.
And I think, given the recent history of the appointments and how it's went, and I don't want to be in that position.
No, and I understand that too. And as someone who has ran for city council, as you all have, you know what this all entails. And for someone to have to step up and redo it again, I mean, I just think the most important issue right now is to get a full governing body to help do our city business that desperately needs done at this point in time.
Brenda, there are some points there that, we have several council members that are missing.
Yep.
To help further discussion, Mr. Marshall, I would not be voting. I mean, I'm talking about budget because we would be going to an election after we set our budget. So we would only have the five counselors here voting. And what kind of vote do we need to approve the budget? Is that a 2/3 vote? Yeah, well, I mean, this is moving around. We need to
May I ask a question while he's searching?
Sure.
Is there a possibility of having a combination of those things by appointing somebody until the election on January 7th, which essentially is what we're already thinking about, just adding people so that we don't have a possibility of voting with only five? Is that possible? Because
So a temporary appointment?
well, is that possible?
No.
Okay, I'm just,
No, I don't think you should handpick anybody. I think you should still
I'm not
seek
saying just the way we've
applicants.
always, no, I'm not talking about handpicking anybody, just what you suggested is that the point of having somebody in these seats until January 7th when we have an election. So it's a combination of the two. I'm just asking the question.
So you got 2 months before you're going to have an election. And then the end of January, isn't it, Ann, where you advertise for the April election already? And then you have that 30-day time period in February to get those petitions turned in for the April election. So I'm just looking at the timeline and.
Well, that was my point. We have an election January 7th, which fits within the confines of the state law, but in the meantime, are there people from Ward 3, for example, that we could appoint who would be here to handle this position until such time as we have an election? Common sense doesn't always work in government.
Yeah, I know.
I didn't follow quite how we got to January 7th. I thought that the count came up somewhere mid-December.
It was
Christmas Eve.
Christmas Eve and then New Year's.
It came up on the 24th of December. And then 1 week after that was the 31st of December. So as we wait for a little more clarity, because we might be in a pickle with approving the budget because of the state mandated timeline, my recollection is we need a 2/3 vote to pass the budget. And is that a 2/3 vote of the body, which would mean we would need 6 votes, and we only have 5 voting members on the council at that point.
Okay, I have an initial answer.
Okay.
And that is a
Okay, that's good to be clear that we do not need a 2/3 vote and a majority of the aldermen. Is that the seated aldermen, or is that the total of 8 aldermen?
My opinion that it would be the seats of the aldermen and not the 8.
Mr. Marshall, could you clarify for us Kevin's role right now as interim mayor? Is he serving as a person who only votes for ties? Or is he, like you said, an alderman, still part of the council?
That's a question on which there is no guidance in statute. I think there is an attorney general's opinion that addresses it, but that opinion I have in my computer files and not, again, at my fingertips. I'd be happy to go pull that one.
Well, it'd be nice. We determined, though, we can pass a budget, so we're not hamstrung, for not a lack of a better term, of passing a 2025 budget before the end of the year. And so the original motion to hold an election on the 7th of January looks like it still holds merit. Is that accurate? Ruth, you had a comment?
Well, I was going to say, too, talking about your powers as interim mayor, does 987 cover that, where it says in the president of the council is acting mayor and has all the powers of the mayor. However, the president of the council acting as the mayor shall only vote as an alderman, and no alderman acting as mayor may vote as the mayor to break a tie vote.
Okay. Well, we've clarified that as well. Good discussion. So moving along, I guess, is there any further discussion on the motion to set a special election for those 3 positions on the 7th of January? Hearing none, let's call the question on that. All those in favor of the motion to have the special election on the 7th of January indicate by saying yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. That motion carried unanimously. It looks like we have an election on the 7th of January. Continuing on with our agenda, we've got some cannabis hearings coming. I'm disheveled up here with the, we got so sideways with our discussion. All right, so the first item is consideration to approve medical cannabis dispensary license, a renewal for Northern Hills Alternative Health.
Good evening, council. It's that time of year again where the license renewals for the medical marijuana cannabis dispensaries and growing operations and manufacturing come due. This application, Northern Hills Alternative Health, has in fact submitted a renewal application for the medical cannabis dispensary license at 2715 Lozelle. The application is complete and in compliance with Title 39 of the Sturgis Municipal Code. The renewal application fee of $7,500 has been submitted with the application. Since the issuance of the medical marijuana license, no changes in operations or ownership have been made. No complaints have been filed with code enforcement or law enforcement. The license has remained active in accordance with 3917, and the entire application can be viewed at the Planning and Permitting Office. The code references are 39.1.5, application process, renewal process, 39.1.7, and license to remain active, 39.1.8. Fees have been established and they have been paid. Are there any questions?
Any questions from council? About questions from the public? Medical dispensary license renewal. Is someone willing to make a motion for this renewal?
I'd make the motion.
I'll second.
First by Nick, second by Ruth. All those in favor of approving the renewal of this license indicate by saying yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. All right, that was approved by majority. Next item on the agenda is another medical cannabis dispensary renewal for Puffy's.
The same applies for Puffy's. Puffy's has submitted their application for the medical cannabis dispensary license at 1337 Main Street. The application is in fact complete and in compliance with Title 39 of the Sturgis Municipal Code. The application fee of $7,500 has been in fact submitted. Since the original issuance of the medical marijuana license, no changes in operation or ownership have been made and no complaints have been filed with code enforcement, law enforcement. The license has remained in effect according with Sturgis Municipal Code 39.1.7. And again, this application can be reviewed at the Planning and Permitting Office.
My name is Kitrick Jeffries, for the record. I'm one of the owners of Puffy's Dispensary. I just want to thank everybody for their hard work and favorable consideration on our application tonight. This is an open invitation for the city council members and members of the city staff to have a tour of Puffy's Dispensary. I know that we've given tours in the past, and I have had some new faces up on the council since then. So you guys are more than welcome to come down and check it out and see all the patients that we're helping and all the good work we're doing for the community of Sturgis. And thank you for your favorable consideration.
Is there any additional discussion on this?
Make the motion to approve.
I'll second.
First by Jesse, second by Jim, to approve the cannabis dispensary renewal for Puffy's. All those in favor indicate by saying yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. All right. Next, we have a renewal application for a medical marijuana manufacturing location, the Crop Shop. Dave?
The Crop Shop, which is located at 2951 Whitewood Service Road, has submitted the renewal application for the medical marijuana manufacturing license. No changes have been made, and the license has been active since issued last year. No complaints have been made to law enforcement or code enforcement. The applicant has paid the application fee and completed with all sections of the Sturgis Municipal Code. A complete copy of the application can be viewed at the Planning and Permitting Office. And the $7,500 fee has been obtained.
Okay, good. You'd like to make a statement, sir?
Pretty much the same thing. If you guys want to ever come over and take a tour, you guys are more than welcome to at any time. Dave can set that up at any time.
Okay.
I'd
Any
make-
questions from council?
I'd motion to approve.
Motion to approve from Nick.
I'll second.
Second from Ruth. Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion indicate by saying yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. All right, the renewal for the cultivation shop, the crop shop is has been approved. This item was what we thought we were removing, 10.3, but we are actually acting on first reading of zoning amendment at 9.
There should be one more medical license on there first.
Oh, 2 crop shops.
Yeah.
They threw me off.
This is the cultivation for the crop shop located again at 2951 Whitewood Service Road. They submitted their renewal application for the medical marijuana cultivation license. No changes in ownership have been made. The license has been active since issued last year. No complaints have been made to law enforcement or code enforcement, and the applicant has paid the application fee and complied with all sections of the Sturgis Municipal Code. A complete copy of the application can be viewed at the Planning and Permitting Office.
So quickly, Dave, I mean, we've got 2 separate licenses there. Is it same $7,500 fee for each one of those?
That is correct, yes.
Okay. All right. Any discussion, or is somebody willing to make a motion on the cultivation license?
I just have a question regarding the election coming up on November 5th regarding the marijuana, the bill that will be before the public. How does this affect what, I don't know how the city works with it, but does it affect your business? positively?
Yeah, I would have Kit come up and explain that.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, Kit Jeffries, owner of Puffy's, but also the West River correspondent for the Yes on 29 campaign to legalize cannabis for adults over the age of 21. The measure does not legalize the distribution or the sale of cannabis. It doesn't legalize a framework for medical cannabis establishments to sell cannabis products for adults. It's actually the first state to ever do so. If you guys remember the election in 2020 with Constitutional Amendment A, the constitutional amendment was struck down in court for violating the single subject rule due to a technicality. And so this measure, to make it like really simple, was drafted just so that cannabis for adults was legal, right? The legislature has a framework under, son of a gun, sorry, brain fart. The legislature has a framework under Senate Bill 3, which is a bill to implement a legalization package. Sorry about this, guys. Just a mental break there. Out of the Senate committee in 2022, it establishes a framework, and we anticipate that that will get passed this legislative session. I think I'm choking.
Are you?
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks, Kit.
Jim, did that answer your
That
question?
answered my question. I'm sure I've seen some legislation possibilities that they said whether we pass it or not, we'll decide how we're going to sell it. So the legislature still would like to have say in it, regardless what the people say. So that's another issue we need to deal with at another time. But I think that's something else you'll face. But the medical marijuana provision is not in danger with this bill.
No.
That's already passed. Okay.
All right, so Counselor Dargett stepped out. We do have a first and a second on the floor on this.
He's doing medical training.
Tony's taking care of us.
We're scary.
Tony, we're going to call the question.
Oh, sorry about that.
No problem. The motion was to approve the cultivation license, and all those in favor of this motion indicate by saying yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. All right, so now we're first reading of zoning amendment at 957 Sherman.
This item in front of you is a zoning amendment for 957 Sherman to rezone a property from medium-density residential to general commercial. EPTF Realty of South Dakota, the owner of Harley Davidson, owns the property located at 957 Sherman. The property is described as Fort Meade Additions Lot 35 and 38 of Block 3. The property currently is zoned medium-density residential housing. The applicant is requesting a zoning change from medium density to general commercial. To give you an idea, the lot is the bare lot or the vacant lot that's right behind Harley Davidson that they use for storage and parking during the motorcycle rally. It's currently empty, and the owner wishes to then, after this change, replat 957 Sherman with 1040 Junction into one property for future plans to add additional parking for the Harley store. Planning Commission made recommendation for approval on this item October 8th at the October 8th, 2024 meeting.
Dave, I don't recall, but on the send-outs to the neighboring properties, how many were they all approved, or do you remember that by any chance?
I
Sorry to.
don't remember that on by any chance on here. I'm not sure that we have to notice a zoning amendment like that.
Okay, so basically they're just expanding their footprint to allow for other use on their lot that they've owned. They've owned this now for a while, right?
Yeah, they've owned it, well, since, if some of you remember, there used to be a church there. That came down about 12, 13 years ago. And the Harley Davidson stores own that lot since that point in time.
All right, any further discussion from the council? Any input from the public? Is there a motion on this rezoning, first reading?
I motion to approve the first reading.
I'll second.
First by Tony, second by Ruth. All those in favor of the rezoning, first reading, indicate by saying yes.
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 Those opposed, no. First reading approved, passed unanimously. We'll be seeing that back at our next meeting for a second reading.
Correct.
Thank you, Dave. Who, are you presenting the?
I'm here for a bit, yeah.
All right, you got the seat warmed up. We'll keep you moving. Consideration to approve a refund of tattoo license fee for Richard Otten tattoo seller.
Background on this, a tattoo and body piercing applicant that has successfully passed the inspection of the licensed premises and has been issued a license under this chapter may apply for a refund of the $560 of the license fee required by subsection 11.06.5. To obtain a refund, the licensee shall submit documentation and information in a manner that was established by the City Finance Office. To be considered, the application for license shall be submitted to the Finance Office between October 1 and October 15th of the year in which the license was in fact purchased. The application shall include all documentations required by the Finance Office to prove payment of South Dakota municipal sales tax within the city as follows. Copies of the South Dakota sales tax returns, documents required by the Finance Office staff verifying the applicant has paid the aggregate municipal sales tax for sales at the licensed premise between January 1st and July 31st of the calendar year for which the license was purchased, of at least $560 on sales of at least $28,000. Verification by the applicant that operates at the licensed premise in all other respects in compliance with state and federal law. The applicant has in fact provided us, and those weren't put out as public record. They were put out just to the council because we didn't want to send those out. But they did in fact meet the required amount of sales tax to obtain the refund as our ordinance states.
Okay, thank you, Dave. And the recommendation from staff is to approve the refund.
Recommend is to approve the refund because he did meet the qualifications.
Okay. Any discussion from council? Anybody willing to make a motion on this?
I'd make that motion.
Second.
First by Nick, second by Jim. Those in favor of the refund for the tattoo seller indicate by saying yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. All right, next item is another refund. This one for Charles Schaefer, Rossini Gypsy Tour. Did I pronounce that right?
Rosini Gypsy Tour.
Rosini, okay, thank you.
And for some reason, in my stack up here, basically, Chuck with Rosini's Gypsy Tour has in fact provided the adequate documentation to obtain the refund of the 2% sales tax for one of the several licenses that were issued at the location. And staff does recommend approval of the refund. I apologize, I don't have that. I
For the
don't know what I
same,
did.
the same amount, the 560?
$560, correct, yes.
Okay. Any additional questions? Somebody willing to make a motion?
Motion to approve.
First by Tony,
Second.
second by Jesse to approve the refund for Rosini Gypsy Tour. Those in favor of the refund indicate by saying yes.
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 Those opposed, no. All right, we approve the refund for them.
Thank you.
Last item in reports is 2025 budget, first reading. Obviously, given the situation, we are not ready for a first reading. I would like to say, and it's pretty apparent now after we set the election for January 7th, that we know how we're going to be developing the budget. It's going to be done with us, and I'm going to have to, take a lead role in that. I'm ready and willing to do that. I think a couple of statements are needed in this, starting off with fully analyzing our financial situation is, one of our first steps. We've still got some holes. We need to present a reasonable budget and make sure that we manage services and activities for our residents, our taxpayers here as we go forward. We had some people make some comments, in favor of some staff that was, maybe discussed during former Mayor Wilkerson's initial presentation, but there was a lot of unanswered questions within the presentation there and the information that's shared. I will state that it would be my intention to play the cards face up, make every bit of this public so that we have these discussions. And so in order to do this, we may end up with some special meetings. I don't think these special meetings would be if we do that to spend money. I think it would be strictly to make sure that we have these budget discussions in open session where the public can see this and not have these things, worked exclusively through committee and whatnot. I hope to hear from the departments. We had former Mayor Wilkerson put out a press release that, indicated some cuts. We're not sure on what those cuts really were. Were some services, how did we get there? And, without council knowing where those cuts were made, I think you'd have a hard time voting on that. And so those are paramount to us developing a 2025 budget. I would propose that we would move a little bit slower. Our ordinance does allow us to, we have to pass the budget by the end of the year, essentially. And, we don't necessarily want to wait till the end of the year, but if it takes that long for us to, get through all of the departments and get through all of the discussion on it, that's what it is. We have sent forward to the Meade County Auditor before the October 1st deadline the mill levy, and it's unfortunate, but we did have to take the mill levy to the max allowed, the max tax, and just for anybody that is listening or in the audience that wants to review that, the Meade County Auditor actually publishes a max tax document that's available on their website. And so it's a good way for you to learn what the tax collecting entities throughout the county, whether it's a road district or an ambulance district or a municipality or whatever, what their max tax is. And we did have to take that, so we know what funds we're working with there. I hope to see, again, the financial situation be fully analyzed. I think some budgets, it's a lot easier to look at the revenue that they come in where it's very linear. If you're writing building permits or something like that, it's easy to check on this, but we've got some of the others that we need to make sure that we're reconciled on and that we know exactly what our position is. I'd also like to state, we're focusing heavily on the 2025 budget. Ann, I know you're new in your position here. I've got great confidence in you, but we are strapped for cash, and that doesn't just affect us in 25. We need to make sure that we don't have ourselves in a position for 2024. And so thankfully it's still October and we've got a little time to work forward, till towards the end of the year. We do see the second half of property taxes coming in. We're still seeing some of the summer sales tax returns coming in, but most municipalities, county governments, even schools, without adequate reserves in the first few months of a new budget year. And so making sure that we can pay the bills this year and understand where we're going to be in the first few months of the new year is going to be important for us to be able to manage, you know, cash flows. I mean, the first thing that I can say is that all of our departments are, I mean, we are going to have to hold, there's a difference between budget and cash. If we get a budget approved, that doesn't necessarily mean that we can spend all those budget dollars right away in the first year. I mean, maybe there's some sort of a purchase that they're been approved to make, but we need to make sure that we make that purchase at a time that we have adequate cash. So we've got some work ahead of us. You know, we've heard from again residents, and you know, we've been working on this for a while. We've taken a blow. Maybe we've got knocked down, but this community is strong. We're going to be fine. We need, though, to be working forward more than just 1 year, knowing that we are coming into an election, and that, I mean, not just the January 7th election, but our election in April, that might change some dynamics. But some of the recovery process that we're considering is going to be extending. I mean, we're not going to recover from this in 1 year, and so we need to be making sure that we're cognizant of a more long-range plan, and we're not setting ourselves up to fail long. I mean, we can't just stop doing capital improvement projects or replacing equipment or doing all these things and expecting us to recover in 1 year, because the costs of those items go up every year, and you know, so we've got work ahead of us, and I truly appreciate. I mean, it seems like we've got a community that's all pulling on the same side of the rope currently, and we're gonna make this happen. Any comments on that?
I was going to say I was better at speeches than you, but you've just proven me wrong, I think. In looking over some of the things in terms of recommendations on budget, I found this quote that would be a good place to maybe think about. This is from Cicero, who was a great Roman orator, and he said, "The budget should be balanced, the treasury refilled, public debt reduced, the arrogance of officialdom tempered and controlled, and the assistance to foreign lands curtailed, lest our country become bankrupt." I thought that's pretty good advice in one sentence.
Definitely.
Thank you for what you're doing, by the way.
Well, I appreciate the team that we have. I appreciate the community that we have. I would like to hear if there is any objection to this process, but you know, we do want to hold it. I do want to make sure that we don't often have 5-hour meetings any longer. I mean, if it takes it, let's do that, but let's be expedient on it. So, any comments from council?
I think that's wise.
Well spoken.
Yeah.
Hear, hear.
Public? All right, I did not see that we developed a list. Mr. Marshall, we do have a need for executive session.
We do not contemplate action after executive session. There are informational only items for council.
And they fit within the items that we're allowed to have for executive session.
Yes, sir.
Outstanding. Well, with that being said, I would entertain a motion to go into executive session for the items listed on here, which appears to be personnel and legal.
Motion to approve to go into exec session.
Second.
First by Tony, second by Jesse. Those in favor to go into executive session indicate by stating yes.
Can we, are we leaving?
We can certainly leave, but since we're not going to have action afterwards.
Oh, okay.
Excuse the crowd.
We don't take any action, and we won't be taking any action.
Yeah.
Okay, motion on the floor. All those in favor indicate by stating yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. Thank you. We'll go immediately as
Second.
Okay, it takes about a minute for it to come back, so.
Okay, go ahead and open the door then. Yeah, we're all in favor, right? Unanimous?
I think we can have open special meetings about that, right? Doesn't have to be work session.
Yeah.
No, work session, then the public can't say anything.
Which we don't want.
Nope, we do not want.
Correct. Special meeting, they. Special meeting, so you can
I'm going to have, some windshield time tomorrow morning, Tuesday afternoon. I have to. Oh, yeah, it's.
Nobody out there?
They're out there, but.
No, they're like, nah.
Are we live?
We're still not back.
Yeah, well, it's been enlightening for me because, when my oldest was 4, I was the coolest guy ever. When he was 14, I was less cool.
Yes, that's.
Yeah, when he was 18, I didn't have anything. Now at 25, we're like, yeah, we're doing all right. That's such a.
We're back.
All right, we're back in session. We are going to dismiss the meeting. Is there a motion that we dismiss?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Second by Jim. All those in favor indicate by saying yes.
Yes.
And those opposed, no. All right, we are adjourned.